So welcome to this podcast to talk about program changes and the updates to the new Cub Scout program that will be rolling out in 2015. I'm Peter Self with the National Office. I'm the team lead of member experience and want to share those thoughts with you today. Although the values we teach in Scouting are as relevant and needed today as they were over 100 years ago, the youth we serve and the world in which they live has dramatically changed. This is the reason that we're constantly evaluating our programs and the delivery of them for our youth. In fact, the 2011-2015 National Council Strategic Plan speaks very clearly to that point. And in 2010, a game-changing initiative was launched. We set a goal to make the Boy Scouts of America's programs the best that they can be, the most engaging, the most relevant, and the most valuable possible for America's youth and families. You may actually have heard of this initiative, which derived its working title, 411, from those areas of the strategic plan. The 4 stands for the 4th pillar of the strategic plan, which is dynamic and relevant program. The first one stands for the objective of this part of the plan, which is the BSA's programs will match what today's youth both want and need. The second one stands for the goal that has been achieved by this plan. It says we've changed our programs to reflect the results of a thorough program review and assessment that clearly identifies those elements that are appealing, exciting, and culturally relevant to today's youth and families. The real question is, however, why? The strategic why of this is important. Why engage in this effort at all? Well, program updates and the 411 task force is about the main thing, or at least half of it, offering the best possible program to an ever-increasing number of youth. It's about program quality, making sure that our Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts programs offer America's youth and families value-based growth experiences to build the ethical leaders of tomorrow. As we set out on this journey in this task force, we set up a strategic goal in November of 2010. We started by selecting Russ Hunsaker, an Eagle Scout and Silver Buffalo Award recipient from the Great Salt Lake Council, to head the task force. Russ selected members of his committee from across the nation, and there were approximately 75 volunteers that were organized around 6 areas of assessment and program development. The areas and their chairs were character development, which was chaired by Betsy Eubanks of Montana, participatory leadership, led by Al Patrick from North Carolina, personal fitness, chaired by Scott Armstrong of upstate New York, outdoor skills and awareness, led by John Savage from Detroit, leadership and development, chaired by Brad Smith of Southern California, and advancement, led by Diane Cannon of Houston, Texas. Of course, 75 is a pretty small number. We recognize that they all talk to their friends and neighbors, so we really have no idea how many people were really engaged in this process. We suspect somewhere around 2,000 when all said and done. The work of the task force was monitored and guided by the National Program Content Support Committee, which reports through the HR department and through Innovation and Research, which is one of the standing committees on the National Board. The project began in November 2010 and has been an ongoing project ever since. To get this program up and running, we worked on it in a very strategic manner and set our plans in place. The project has 5 phases: assessment, design, development, production, and launch. The assessment and design phases are complete. Structural design is pretty much complete, and the new requirements were approved at the October National Board meeting. These requirements were focused around the aims of Scouting, which are character development, participatory citizenship, and personal fitness. We also added 2 target areas, which were outdoor skills and awareness and leadership development. The official go-live date for the Cub Scouts change is the fall of 2015, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But we'll begin with the national announcement at the national meeting in 2014, followed by some Philmont Training Center sessions this summer, and of course top hands in August in regional planning conferences throughout the nation. In the fall and winter of 2014-2015, we're developing a series of regional training weekends for councils, districts, and units, both volunteers and professionals. And by the spring of 2015, we'll have a series of open webinars to support unit leaders, and by the May of 2015, all materials will be available in English and Spanish. The changes you'll be hearing about will first impact program delivery at the unit level in the fall of 2015. Impact on outdoor program will be felt in the summer of 2016. But let's talk about the changes. We'll start off with one you probably already know about. One Oath, One Law. Announced last year, one of the task force's early recommendations was that both Cub Scouts and Venturing move to use the Scout Oath and Law, bringing all of Scouting's family together under one umbrella. The recommendation was approved by the board in October of 2012 and is grounded in the mission of the Boy Scouts of America, which is to prepare young people to make ethical and moral choices over their lifetimes by instilling in them the values of the Scout Oath and Law. Strategically, the sense was that we should begin this process at the earliest ages and do so directly. Before making the recommendation, however, the task force impaneled a study which included educators and child development specialists, all of which were Scouters, to study the age appropriateness of the potential change. This study group concluded that with proper support from adult partners and leaders, there was no reason that Cub Scouts and children of that age could not learn to begin to learn the values of the Oath and Law and implement them in their lives. There's no requirement to memorize the Oath and Law in Cub Scouts. Simply, we begin the stage here. So really, the program model is what's changing, what people are most interested in. The results of the research and the deliberations of the task force affect both Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts, but today we'll only cover the new Cub Scout program model and the adventure that it brings to Cub Scouting. The fundamental objectives of the Cub Scout program redesign are shown on this slide. The task force set out to accomplish the following: to ensure that all the activities in which Cub Scouts engage are fun and connected to the mission and the aims of the BSA. Historically, that's been a challenge for leaders to make a connection, and for boys. They have fun in the program, but they're not necessarily making the connection as to why they're doing those things. We want to reinforce den-based achievement and as the most common level of model advancement. And new program includes family activities, but recognizes that the majority of the advancement happens in the den. We also wanted to reduce complexity. The current advancement design, with its requirements, electives, progress awards towards rank, the devices, the bell loops and pins, arrow points, compass points, it's confusing to leaders and cumbersome to administer. I think we can all recognize that this is our entry-level program. We have our newest leaders here, and yet we've given them the most complicated program to learn. So simplicity in design and implementation was paramount. In response to the assessment phase and the research that we conducted on the needs of today's boys, the task force set forth 5 organizing principles to be applied to all ranks. You can see them here: character development, participatory citizenship, personal fitness, outdoor skills and awareness, leadership and life skills. For each principal area, desired outcomes were written describing for each rank what a boy should experience to progressively move towards the goal of the BSA mission. These desired outcomes form the foundation of the advancement program and are the source for requirement development and handbook content. The program desired outcomes represented to the end of the design phase and are the basis for the development phase of the project. The team driving the volunteer development phase, which we call the Cub Adventure Team, consists of 14 volunteers from each region with 20 to 30 years of experience each in the Cub Scout program. They serve units, districts, and councils as well. So here's the real program model changes. The planned new approach to Cub Scout advancement adheres to the following principles for all ranks. Each rank will complete 7 adventures to earn their badge of rank. Again, each rank will complete 7 den-based adventures, including 1 Duty to God adventure. So it'll be 6 adventures as a den and 1 Duty to God adventure, which is done on a family basis. It breaks out like this. For tigers, there are 6 required adventures and 1 elective. For wolf and bear, it's also 6 required adventures with 1 elective. At the Webelos rank, we recognize that these boys are prepared to make a little more choices on their own and to line out their program a little more themselves. So we only have 5 required adventures with 2 electives. And to achieve the Arrow of Light, there are 4 required and 3 electives. Now, it doesn't sound like very many options for the boys to partake in, but combined, there are over 80 different options of adventure modules for them to participate in. The adventures are themed blocks of content which are designed to work in an interdisciplinary manner to support the desired outcomes. Each adventure is roughly 3 den meetings worth of content. The 3 den meetings structure supports an outing or field trip, which is then appropriate to the content. So each adventure is not just a single meeting, but rather 3 meetings and an outing. At the completion of each adventure, the Cub Scout will receive a progress recognition device. Now, the newly designed devices will be unveiled at the National Annual Meeting in Nashville in May of 2014. And once the Cub Scout has completed the 7 required adventures, he will have earned his badge of rank. So that's only 7 adventures meaning that they don't have to participate all 12 months out of the year. We know that boys have vacations and sports and other things going on. So completing 7 gets them their badge of rank. And electives have been designed for each rank, allowing individuals or den-based exploration and support for a year-round program. So there's plenty of flexibility and plenty of opportunity here. Examples of some of the adventures that we have are on the screen right now. For the tiger, you can see we have things like Tigers on the Prowl, which is hiking and exploring. For wolves, running with the pack or howling at the moon, which has to do with astronomy. Bare necessities for bear, getting ready to go camping. Of course, the cast iron chef, who can pass up an opportunity to cook. And then an arrow of light, moving into the scouting program, the Boy Scouting program. As I mentioned, across all ranks, there are over 80 adventures to support our Cub Scouts with fun, engaging program, and that is mission connected. Each of the adventures is fully developed into den meeting plans that will support the den leaders in execution. To support these new adventures, we created new books for both the youth and their leaders. Samplers of each of these books will be available to each Scout executive at the 2014 National Annual Meeting. Again, these are just the samplers, not the books themselves. But you'll notice the new layout, the wood look to the book, and on the right, you'll see the compilation book, which has the 4 covers chosen for the tiger, wolf, bear, and webelos. Each book includes one adventure. Each of these samplers includes one adventure from each of the Cub Scout programs and the matching leader guide to go with it. This is the new artwork and a very easy to follow format. The format in the leader guide will start off with the rationale for the adventure, or in other words, what are we trying to teach, and ways we can make the connection, making it really easy for the leader to identify how to teach and how to work with the boys as they work through these adventures. One of the things you'll notice in the new rollout is that each rank will have a separate leader book which corresponds directly to each of the individual program ranks. So no longer do you have a single Cub leader book, but each rank, tiger, wolf, bear, and webelo, will have its own leader guidebook. And both the leader books and the boys' handbooks are written in a pretty clear, concise, and easy to follow format, trying to simplify, again, the delivery of this program for both our leaders and our youth. And leaders will have plenty of resources from which to draw, making den meetings and outings more fun for everybody. And oh yeah, we've added a new friend for the Scouts. The boys will be introduced to Ethan, who we found within the pages of their handbooks. Ethan will be the Scout from time to time that appears to help guide them through their progress. So from the time a boy becomes a new tiger until he bridges over into the adventure of Boy Scouts, Ethan will be there to guide him along the path. Ethan sometimes appears in uniform, sometimes he's in soccer clothes, sometimes he's just in a t-shirt or a sweatshirt. He always appears 1 year older than the boy's book in which he's appearing. So for a tiger cub, Ethan appears as a wolf. In a wolf book, Ethan appears as a bear, and so on. And speaks as though he's been through the process already, helping the boys to understand how this is going to work for him. So what's changing and what's not? Well, what's not changing is the focus on the family. Cub Scouting has been and will continue to be a family-focused program, and the ranks or the approach to the ranks are not changing either. Neither have the ages or the genders. We still serve boys from 1st grade through 5th, 7 to 10, and it's a male-only program. The den and pack meeting structure has stayed the same. We still follow the 7 steps of a den meeting. That hasn't changed at all, and the output program has just gotten better and better. The delivery model continues to be important and will continue to improve in simplicity. So what is changing? Well, we already talked about one oath, one law. It becomes consistent through all of Scouting's programs. We're also changing the logo for the tiger. Tiger Cub becomes tiger, simply, and the image becomes much more appropriate for this age. In fact, in our studies, both the youth and the adults felt that the current tiger badge was rather juvenile or even infantile. One boy even characterized the picture as a female. His comment was, "How come that tiger's a girl?" So we've made the tiger a little more in line with the rest of our logos and beefed up the Tiger Cub program quite a bit. Another thing to remember is the arrow of light will no longer be required to earn the webelos rank. The reason for this is because in several councils we have success at recruiting young men in 5th grade. And if we require that that Weeblo's arrow of light connection, we sometimes lose these boys before they actually ever get engaged. The activities are more active. You notice I referred to each of these activities in these modules as adventures. That's exactly what they are. If you go through the leader guidebooks, you'll see much more adventure, much more hands-on, much more participation and engagement on the parts of the youth, giving them an opportunity to learn experientially. The advancement is simplified. We no longer have all the badges, all the baubles, all the beads, all the pins. It'll be much more simplified. The academics and sports program will be going away. Now, for those who love this program, which is not a few, keep in mind that we have 80 elective activity modules, adventure modules. That's because some of these sports and academics programs have been consolidated into or brought into the adventure modules. We have the immediate recognition devices are being replaced, and again they'll be rolled out at the national meeting in May of 2014. And one den leader guide per rank. So each book will have its unique den leader guide, making it easier for den leaders to follow along the program and guide the young men along the way. So what does the transition look like? Well, we're still tidying up the loose ends and making things work smoothly, but we'll announce the major portion of the changes in the national meeting in May of 2014, with the official rollout being May of 2015. So all units will continue to use the current handbooks and requirements until May of 2015. All units must begin using the new handbooks and requirements effective with the beginning of the 2015-2016 scouting year. Typically that's August or September of 2015. But for those dens who have an active summertime pack award or summertime activity, the decision of which handbooks and requirements to use is at the den's discretion based upon how they typically approach summer activities. If they typically continue to be active by working on the electives of the rank the boys just earned, or they're finishing off requirements for that year, use the current books and requirements. If they typically begin working on the new rank the boys just entered, use the new books and the requirements. It's entirely at the discretion of the den and the pack. That's it. Those are the changes coming up to the Cub Scout program. You'll see more about it in the future as we hold webinars and webcasts. Be looking for news in training times, in the advancement news, and through your local council offices. We think you'll find the Cub Scout changes in the Cub Scout program more engaging, simpler, and more fun.